find ourselves in the midst of what's sort of called the immigration crisis. Anti-immigrant policies emanating out of states such as Arizona and Utah, and proposed and many others have signaled this crisis level. But as my intro to Chicana Studies class has explored this semester, and they should be rolling in here soon, the entanglement of immigration policy with labor and ethnic politics is not new. We've discussed these issues as emerging in the 19th century as part of the emergence of industrial capitalism and commercial agriculture in the United States. Furthermore, Mexican and other Latino origin communities have mobilized against state mechanisms for more than a century. They have, in diverse ways, challenged the ways in which the category of illegal alien, which was coined and created in the 1920s, has limited their participation in society, divided them from other American workers, and marginalized them as racialized others. So today we have the pleasure of hearing from and dialoguing with Ernesto Velez Bustos, committee organizer for Centro Campesino, a worker center mobilizing Latino workers and families at the intersection of ethnic and labor politics. Centro Campesino is part of this much longer history of resistance that I briefly described, operating in the emerging context of what many have called globalization. Taking from their website, quote, Centro Campesino is a Latino-led grassroots organization based in Patino, Minnesota. Centro Campesino has become a multifaceted organization concerned about the well-being and the empowerment of migrant workers and year-round immigrant Latino residents of South Central Minnesota. Centro Campesino developed in 1998 out of a grassroots movement initiated and led by Latino migrant agricultural workers in rural southern and central Minnesota. Their goal was to better the workers and their families' lives. As the community came together to address their problems and seek solutions, a formal nonprofit membership organization, Centro Campesino, was created and officially incorporated in 2000. Building on our community strengths, our organization is 100% constituency control. This goal of ethnic kind of independence or autonomy of solving their own problems also has a very long history in Mexican origin and other Latino origin communities. Unquote. Building on the practices of community control, Centro Campesino is at the forefront of not only local and regional immigrant rights organizing, but also at the national level. Most recently, the White House's Office of Social Innovation and Civic Participation highlighted Centro Campesino's successes. We invite you today to a conversation on the burgeoning immigration debate from the perspective of migrant farm workers and their communities. On that note, please help me welcome Ernesto Velez Bustos, community organizer to Centro Campesino.
Thanks. I don't know if I should steal this stand. I'm wondering if we can move up or over here to the front so that when the class opportunity to sit in the back. Sure. And that way it also feels more like, we know where. Thank you. Advocacy and education. So those are basically the principles of the organization, and that's how we were created, and that's how we actually do the entire work that we carry out. One of the very first things that I have to say is there's two things that we have to address and understand. One is the difference between a migrant worker and an immigrant worker. And I'm going to be doing this in a very interactive way, so I'm going to be asking questions. I want you to ask me questions as I go along, because there's a lot of things that you may want to know or are kind of wondering about. And if you don't ask me the question, I'm not going to be able to provide that information to you what's the difference between a migrant worker and an immigrant worker. Yes, perfect, thank you. So Minnesota experiences an influx of migrant workers, mostly from the southern part of Texas, what's called the Valley, and then the northern states of Mexico, which are the ones that border. We used to get a lot of migrant workers, probably past 10 years ago. It just kind of started dropping down, mostly because of the disappearance of one particular crop, which was asparagus, which needs a lot of labor, or hand labor, I would say. And then, you know, the mechanization of different crops. Now most of Minnesota produces corn and soybeans, so there isn't a lot of need for labor for that type of crop. So then the number of migrant workers that come to the state of Minnesota has dramatically dropped, probably by, I don't know, 60 to 70%. In the area where we used to work, or where we worked, Owatonna, there used to be 5 migrant camps 10 years ago. Now there's only 1 left, and it's owned by a company. And that's actually where Centro Campesino started. So if you see, Centro Campesino started in between 1997 and 1998, and we say that because it wasn't an official organization. We weren't incorporated yet, we didn't really have a mission or staff at all. It was only 3 people, most of them volunteering. One of them, she was doing her master's research on the kind of like the barriers and difficulties of being a migrant worker in Minnesota. So when she finished her survey and she came up with her master's, you know, everything was nice and pretty, she realized that there was more of it to be done. She realized that these workers couldn't be just left hanging because she found out of all the injustices and all the troubles that they have to go through. So she collaborated with our other co-founder, Victor Contreras, to kind of like this, sit down with the migrant workers and talk about their issues. So they came up with a list of all the possible things that they were kind of in a way going wrong. Can anyone give me some examples of what would be either difficulties or barriers that migrant workers were facing at the time? Just throw them out there.
Low wages.
Low wages is one, it's
Housing.
always one.
Housing.
Housing, yes. What else?
Schooling.
Say that again?
Schooling.
Schooling for the kids, yes.
Work condition.
Working conditions, housing conditions.
Ice.
Immigration or the winter? Both. Anything else?
Laundry.
You guys probably have either a full-time job or a part-time job, right? If you had a chance to ask for something better for to improve your working conditions, what would you ask for? You're gonna have some vacation.
More money.
Wages, more money, raising your livelihood. What else?
Benefits. Benefits.
Benefits such as health.
Like healthcare.
Yes. All right. So just like this, they sat down and they created a huge list of all the possible things that could go wrong. So they realized at the same time that they couldn't tackle every single one of them, right? So they decided on one. Which one do you think they picked? Kids. So migrant workers, when they travel, it's the whole family that travels. For example, immigrant workers, on the other hand, when they travel, it's only mostly the dad, or in this case, an adult male, right? Is the one that goes away, works, sends the money back for the family. Migrant workers is the whole family that travels. It's mom, dad, kids, uncles, grandma, whoever they can bring, they do it. So at the camp, specifically this one in Owatonna that used to be owned by Chicana International, everybody knows that brand, right? The migrant workers will be there, and they're scheduled, but they used to arrive earlier, like, what are we, April 11th? They will start arriving like late April, beginning of May. Now they arrive mid-May to late May, mostly because of the weather and there is no work available. But they will come, they will work 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week, from May to November. So if you are a family and you're working 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week, what happens? Those with kids, come on.
You need daycare.
You need daycare. So you basically have, you know, it's a 37-unit place, so that's 37 families. Let's say every family has between 2 to 4 kids. How many kids do we have in the campground? A whole bunch. Let's do it that way. So they're all basically running around, running wild in a way, because they that when they have older brothers or older siblings, if they were asked to take care of them, they would do it to a certain extent because they have new priorities. Or some of them just choose to work because it means more income for the family. So you have all these kids, basically 24 hours a day doing whatever they want. The other part is that the camp is located outside of the city, surrounded by fields of soy and corn. So there's two things. One is tornadoes. They didn't have a tornado shelter. And second, at the time, the surrounding fields will get sprayed with the little airplanes, to just basically around them. And these kids, I never saw it, but this is what I hear from the conversations with their parents. They're little kids. So can you imagine being, 7 or 8, and all of a sudden you feel a mist in the air? What do? You play with it, because you don't know what it is. So these kids were basically being sprayed on with whatever chemicals they put on the field. So the family gathered, they got together, and they said, all right, we're going to go and ask the company that we need daycare for our kids. After all, we have worked for this company for 7, 10, 15 years. There was actually one time where the organizers met with the families and started asking each other, right? And we could do it here probably with the San Carlos State University staff, collectively, how many years you have worked for this entity, right? For this organization or for this establishment. And they came up with like 100 and some years that they all collectively have worked for this company. And so they realized that like, we basically have given our lives to this company and they're not even giving us anything back. So they went to the company and they said, you know what? We've been coming here to work for you for the past 17 years, for the past 5 years. We would like you to provide daycare for our kids so that when we come to work, we're concentrating on working and we're not worrying about our kids. So what did the company say? No. They actually say yes. Why not? I'm just kidding. They said no. They're like, that's not my business. My business is to provide a job for you. You come and do it however you can, whenever you can. And I get my vegetables, put them in a can, send them around the world, make a profit out of it. So then they went back, sat again, and they're like, what are we going to do? How are we going to convince such a powerful company to provide daycare? So they did what's the very first stage of